So yeah, this is Amerah, Saleh. My name is Bohdan Piasecki. And we'll do some poems for you. We'll start by alternating individual pieces and then do something that we wrote especially for today, almost to our own surprise. They all, hopefully, one way or another, are relevant to multilingualism, and they kind of are because of the very fact that we wrote them. As the name suggests, Polish. And this is just another stop on my never-ending quest to show that there is more than one way to come over here and steal your jobs. All right, good. You laughed, so we're probably going to get along. That's a litmus test for the audience. This joke. I thought I'd start with a piece that you can hang out or you can sit down. Amerah, it's good. Start with a piece that features more than one language and also references one of the roles that English played in my life. So I was born when Poland was still a communist country, but I grew up as a teenager after we kind of opened our arms to the wonders of the free market. And which I experienced mostly through the slightly odd German cable TV package that my parents chose to subscribe to, and we didn't know what was cool and what it was okay to like, and so I ended up with a slightly random selection of things that I provided me with an escape. So I got Dungeons and Dragons, shut up, and that's for a different story. But the ones relevant to this poem were basketball and 90s hip hop, which of course back then we called hip hop. And if I can read a room, I know that you're all big hip hop heads. So this whole text is structured around a particular song, and there's a clue cleverly concealed in the title. And the title is "That's Just the Way It Is." Open brackets. Things will never be the same. Close brackets. There's literally 4 people with a look of recognition in their eyes. Hopefully it's not a prerequisite to enjoy the piece. I'll stop introducing now and actually do the poem. It goes exactly like this. So in the room with custard yellow walls, my sister is sleeping, and a nurse is sweeping up remnants of a broken light bulb. Everything smells of disinfectant, just like our school cafeteria. Earlier, my friend and I skipped class, and we sat on our basketballs behind the row of strip clubs at the mini mall and wound back a cassette tape with a pencil to save batteries on the Walkman I had stolen from my sister. We shared a pair of headphones, and we whooped in unison when the maudlin piano riff got savaged by the beat, and we pretended that we knew what the words meant when the man uttered the opening line, "I see no changes," and immediately the sun came out. And there were women draped across the doors to those strip clubs, like their outfits stripped of provocation by their manner. They drank hot tea. They laughed loudly. The perfume so strong we could smell it on each other. They yelled at us, "Are you boys lost? Are you waiting for someone to pick you up?" And the shops were dingy, dark, and cheap, and we had teachers to placate and a game of basketball to play, so we kept the earbuds in as we walked away, just turned the volume up. I see no changes. I wake up every morning and I ask myself, is something living, something self? My English was getting better, but I could still only catch the NBA on German cable. Und Scottie Pippen werft den Ball zu Michael Jordan und beendet das Spiel mit einem Slam Dunk was very little help. And I had to know, because lyrics were currency to us, so no excuses. Tape out, pencil in, wind it back and listen again and again as you wobble and sway your way back to school. I see no changes. I wake up every morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? And I was pretty sure I had that right. Just hadn't figured out what came next. But no matter, the game that afternoon was perfect. Last quarter, they made a careless pass, steal, lobbed, and pause for breath, catch one dribble, 2 steps, rise up and slam, and then resist the urge to pound your chest after you land. It's lame. Instead, just catch her eye as you run back to defense like it's nothing. catch a whiff of the perfume from earlier on your jersey, catch a snippet of your song blaring from the PA. I see no changes. And in the room with custard yellow walls, my sister is smiling with her eyes still closed. And the nurse finally leaves, his dustpan full of transparent eggshells. And my parents are oddly angled pot plants. And I stare at my high tops. And on the floor next to the right one, there's a brown spot. I say, I have to go to the bathroom, and then linger in the corridor like my sister's room is double geography. I mean, glass has sharp edges, but I know they know that. And I have other things to elucidate, like what it is that the man actually says at the start of the song. So one last time, spin the cassette over your head like a prayer mill, then load it back into the Walkman like a clip. And here's the piano riff, and deep like a chest cough, here's the beat. So concentrate. What do you hear? Ja lubię siedzieć, słuchać słów suchych, szybkich przesuw, szepti szelesek przez szklane szybki okien, podglądać zaskoczonym wzrokiem, jak wszystko wokół tonie pod rwącym potokiem słów, jak pod bokiem wzrasta powód brzmień, dyszkanców basu, szumów, zgrzytów brzmień, tak patrzę, jak codziennie bardziej wzrasta cień fali wyższej niż najwyższe domy miasta, dzień ciszy, nie przebije chmury brzmień, wiesz, ja boję się ciszy i nawet gdy nikt nie słyszy nic, ja chowam się w słowa, którymi kipi moja głowa, mój mózg gniewnie, barwnie pada w dół, pewnie trzeba muć, nie migiełku, nunna, nie zgiełku, tu, gdzie jest hałas, cisza, nigdy nie zaświtała, ja w mętnym szumie zasłyszanych dźwięków pławię się sam spokojny, bez lęku i w ciszy, ciszę. Echo pierwszego słowa zawsze słyszę. All together now. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name's Amerah Saleh, and I'm also a part of Free Radical. It's part of the Beatfreeks Collective. We're based in Birmingham. It's been a nice journey up in the rain. And when I was speaking, when Rajinder came and saw our night that we did, Bohdan wasn't working for us at the time. He was working for the company that we were collaborating with. So it's a nice full circle. But Rajinder was interested in the language that young people use to express how they feel, and my family are from Yemen, so I always struggled with the question, what's your first language, Arabic or English? Because they both were my first language. When I started school, my parents would only speak to me in Arabic, and in school I learned English, so I learned both the languages at exactly the same time. Which means I probably never learnt them both 100%, but hey-ho, I learnt 2 languages. So I've got a piece that is quite an old piece. So when I was growing up, I think a big thing that I found being a teenager was I was really ashamed of the Arabic language. And when I started performing and stuff, and I remember first seeing Bohdan and first seeing Spaz, who does kind of bilingual poetry in Italian as well. And I remember going, I really want to try that in Arabic, but was so ashamed of how the words fell off my lips in front of an audience. Because if there were any Arabs in the room, they'd be like, that is really not, that is the slang of the Arab world. B, how your tongue switches between English and another language when you're performing. So this was the first poem that I ever wrote, and it was just after on Facebook I saw a video go viral of a young girl who was dug from under rubble in Palestine. A mother screams, "La tshullu binti, wallah haram, raih al-madrasa." A father lays on top of his murdered son. You're with God now, my child. I know you're not a terrorist, but how can heartless people distinguish between what's right and what's wrong if they've only ever been programmed for a whole country to suffer because of one, or sometimes a few? You have 58 seconds. From the bomb landing to escape the building, you have 58 seconds to wake up, pick up your children or anyone loved in their home and tell them to leave before they are left. Yalla, akhrugu, agru, ma fi waqt, there's no time. ما في وقت تشيلوا أشياءكم شل أختك ولا أخوك and run. There is a father holding the remains of his daughter, just her head, screaming ما تحسوا الوجع لو هذا بنتك، ما تحسوا الوجع لو هذا ابنك. لموا يا ناس، البيبل الهيومنز اللي يمشوا بحياتهم كأنه الدنيا ما تجزع. Meet 6-year-old Gibran. يلعب بالحافة. Too busy dreaming about what he wants to be when he grows up. Following the trail of the aeroplane, hoping one day maybe he'll be on one. A soldier drags him by the shoulder. Not a word or explanation, and he's busy finishing off the crumbs from the crisp packet in his hands. An American journalist happens to see this. She starts to talk in English. She then goes on. يا ولد, إيش اسمك? Gibran, he replies. Kam sana. Sit. As the soldier is tugging him, she begins shouting whilst holding a video camera. Hada mish sah, he hasn't done anything. I've been here the whole time. And 5 days later, a video is circling the internet of a 6-year-old boy called Gibran, an arm cut off and body burnt in the center of town. I log out. لو عندي الزقاء لا شل نفسي, a woman faints mid-conversation while struggling to get words out, hoping that they'd let go of her baby girl. She's 6 months old. Let's call her Maria. Hidden under gravel, there for days, 8 family members gone and blood sprayed all over the bricks, worn out. Buildings are tipping over. And they haven't found her. Ya Ummi, I can hear her say. شوفي الشعب الأمة, شوفي القلوب اللي سووا ولا حاجة لنا. يا أمي ما عندي الانرجي ولا النفس أضارب الحياة بحياتي ما عشت. يا أمي فلسطين يسمعوا الرصاص والقنابل كأنهم ألام كلاكس. أمي فين أمريكا, فين بريطانيا, فين السعودية, فين العالم يشوفوا إنه هذا مش حرب, هذا والله حرام. Thank you.
It's been a while since I've heard you perform this one. Hi. So last year, I spent a lot of time in Hull. Hull is how you pronounce it. I was told many times. Because it was City of Culture. And so, yeah, lots of work for artists. And they brought me up there specifically to engage the Polish community with poetry, which, as you can imagine, the Polish community was waiting for. With bated breath. So we ended up with a project that we built a little kind of poetry pop-up station, they called it, which was basically a plywood box. Only in retrospect did I realize how much like a confessional it looked. And we've just put it in places where the Polish community in Hull lives, in front of butcher shops and hairdressers and restaurants and whatnot, and I just sat in them and spoke to whoever would speak to me and took notes. I ended up with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of words of notes from conversations with people on the streets, and they resulted in a series of very short poems that we then printed in English and Polish and did things with. That's not important. What's important is I'd like to read you now a few of these poems. They're very short, and the whole point is that they all exist only if you read both both versions, the Polish and the English. Some of them were English first and then turned Polish. Some of them were Polish first and then turned English. We tried to not make a distinction, not call one the original and the other the translation. So they come as pairs. Quick question. I can do on-the-fly editing, but there's one moderately strong word and one pretty strong word. Are you okay? Will nobody yeah? Okay, good. Again, the people who got in there first with the thumbs up are the people who sway my decision. Everybody else, come take the agenda. All right, so just a selection of very short ones. This came from a conversation with a restaurant owner and became a kind of motto for all my time in Hull. And it goes like this. Jeśli chcesz tu przeżyć, musisz mieć miękkie serce I twardą dupę. Which, if you want to survive here, you need to have a soft heart and a hard ass. So the next one was one of my first conversations, and it was this bodybuilder guy who was literally twice as wide as me, and and this is where I discovered the mechanism that served me really well. So we had a very kind of top-level conversation where he would just answer. Well, he was more curious about me and wouldn't really tell me anything about himself. And then he mentioned he still has a plot of land in Poland with trees growing on it. And then he said, "Oh, but you don't want to hear about my trees." And I went, no, this is exactly what I want to hear, everything about your trees. And his whole body language changed. He shifted forward and started telling me the trees are an investment, they keep growing, and then you can sell them, or you can, by the time his son's 18, the trees will be that big and all that stuff. And he also said this: jeśli ktoś chce zrobić schody, nic mu po ładnych, prostych drzewach. Znajdź mi popieprzony dom, śmieć, który inny by chciał, żeby prostym nie robił cienia. Jak się taki pokręcony potnie na deski, okazuje się, że jest piękny i po tych sękach najlepiej się wspina na górę. So straight trees are worthless if you're making stairs. So find me instead a fucked up oak, like a garbage tree that anyone would cut down, save light for the pretty ones. Me, I'll cut it into planks and you'll see the twisted trunks make the best steps and all the knots. They just want to make you want to climb. I don't think this one necessarily needs an introduction. Nie mam przyjaciół z Anglii. W ogóle prawie nie mam. Fabryka przez pół doby, a dzieci lepiej znają moje powieki niż kolor moich tęczówek. Nic. Dziś idziemy do parku. Nie ma na co narzekać. No, I don't have English friends. Or friends, really. It's a 12-hour shift most days. And children who know more about my eyelids than about my eyes. But no matter. Nah. Going to the park today. Can't complain. This is possibly my favorite one, and the context I'll give after I read it. Nirvh am mildruf pokaskur, oirenes stref exivie exir. Joirde topxin moxix oxis ve ilonex veil. Itrins lspsve fxirni minuir, nirdirm dves, popiodiu of. So I won't read an English version because this is not a real language. This was me trying to touch type and having my fingers one column to the right and just writing basically random selection of letters. And I liked it. I thought it would be good to print it, and I sent it to the designer, and he came back, well, John, you only sent me the Polish version. Where's the English translation? So I copied and pasted it, and it was printed twice, exactly the same. Inviting the reader to bring their own meaning into the poetry. I'll just read a few more quick ones and let Amerah come back on stage. Przyjechałem tu na 3 miesiące w 2004 roku i od tego czasu niezmiennie wracam do Polski na stałe, co święta. I came for 3 months in 2004, and ever since then I have been moving back home for good. Every Christmas. W zimie ciągle pada i jeszcze to referendum. Zimno tu ciągle, ale ja po prostu śpię pod 2 kołdrami. Yeah, it rains in the winter. And then they had that referendum. It does get cold here. But I just sleep under 2 blankets. And the last one. Kiedyś jak mówiłem po polsku, krzyczeli, żebym wracał do domu. Teraz kumple stąd, co i rusz mi tak mówią, a potem śmiejemy się do kufli. Ja wiem, te ich domki wszystkie są takie same, ale to mylące. It used to be, when they heard me speak Polish, they would yell at me to go home. Now my friends tell me that all the time, but we just laugh into our pints. And I know all their houses look exactly the same. But don't let it fool you. Don't let that.
So I'm going to do a quick introduction because of time. But when in July last year, I got asked to fly out to San Francisco for a Brave New Voices poetry slam and to mentor some poets from the UK. And in short, my visa got declined because I went to Yemen in 2011 for 2 weeks. And this was my response. It was a post-Trump. There is an empty, sharp feeling that sits in the top of my stomach. Sometimes my throat and other times in my chest, that feeling of absolute numbness, hopelessness, and rejection. Like black holes falling into the palm of my hand, and I'm trying so hard to put them back into the sky one by one because I want them to be stars again. See, my country stands on one long thread that starts in America, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen. There is a tower that has fallen on my shoulders. It has burnt my skin, shot me out of a dreaming I have been in for so long to say, Amerah, this is your reality. See, you do not sympathize with the pain inside of me, of being denied the soil that my mother played in as a child, or of being denied access because my mother chose to play as a child in a place that you're not familiar with. And my heart wants to fight so badly, run away, die fighting. The activist in me says, go. But the realist in me says, who am I? I am merely a stone that is thrown by a 10-year-old Palestinian at the Israeli embassy, landing just an inch far away from where it's meant to be. I am nothing and no one, not even a fly on an abandoned school, not even a fly near 6-month-old rubbish, not even a citizen of Yemen, but still, I am rejected. I guess the American embassy realized that the H at the end of my name isn't silent, it's Arabic. And they split me open, like Moses did with the Red Sea, but they don't know that inside of me I hide parts of Exodus and parts of Surah 26, chapter 17. Sometimes in public spaces, I speak my mother's tongue. Not mine, my mother's, just to remind others that I am made up of old furniture from my mum's house in Aden, wrapped in headscarves like my nan was ready for war, like Ta'ali Amerah, Wallah Tahaddik, Ka'ar. And other times, I catch myself in the shower trying to scrub off the smell of bakhur just so I can fit in. Or I catch myself picking the most surface level poems in English just so they can say, yeah, she's Western. In England, they tell me how much I don't belong. How my hair grows funny, my skin not the right black and white that they are starting to get used to. They tell me I'm affiliated with those kind of people, you know, those kind of people, the ones that speak Islam. And I drown myself in ignorance because I'm so tired of fighting to fit in when I don't want to. Inti mish min hina, they say. Inti Britania. يعني ما تعرفي عربي سوا. كلامك مكسر. Inti إنجليزية, and I stay silent. Because I do not belong here, but deep down, I want to. And my mother cannot go home, but neither can I. And home isn't Yemen, but neither is here. And they made sure that I knew that I did not belong nor here and nor there. And now I am somewhere in between. I could maybe one day consider home. I realize I'm searching for home, but maybe I'll never find it in places. Maybe God doesn't want me to get attached to brickwork because he knows it'll hurt when it's no longer there. When a gorgeous woman like mountains who stood tall for so long just fall all at once, maybe God doesn't want me to witness it. Maybe God loves me too much to see me in pain. Maybe I'll start searching for home in people. Maybe home is already in this room and I just haven't noticed. So I'll wait to hear voices from somewhere familiar whisper, psst, Amerah, come home. Thank you.
So we're going to do one more poem, just because we're very conscious of time. And this is a bit. We came from thing when we were invited here very kindly. We started thinking about what we could make, especially for the conference, and we thought about what are the things that we don't say in English, who are the people we don't speak to in English, and yeah, that's where this poem came from. Does it need any more intro, Amerah?
No, I don't think so.
It speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. You don't get any translations for this one?
No translations. You can probably fill in the blanks. All right. So it's called My Mother is Crying. My son is crying. Co się stało? I ask. He says, my socks are ignoring my feet. Ale jak to? I ask him, and he can't explain. Nie martw się, na pewno się pogodzą, I say, but I know I'm out of my depth here. So, chodź synku, przytulimy się, and we do, and his nose is a wet mouse trying to hide behind my clavicle. Nie martw się, synku. Mam dni, kiedy uwiera mnie cały świat i też nie wiem, jak prosić, żeby ktoś go poprawił.
My mother is crying. What's the damage? I ask. يشتو 15,000 بعد بكرة. I stumble over tear-stained, nimbly open letters. 15? That's in 2 days. ببيع الحزام حق أخوك. The letters have tear stains now. She looks at me for answers. We'll fix this. The call for prayer is echoing through both our mobile phones. Inshallah, she mumbles as she puts her headscarf on to pray.
My daughter is crying in front of a screen. She is worried that Merida will never get her mum back. It's the first time she's cried because someone she doesn't know is in distress. Me, I have not cried at a film in years. But I breathe in the story, try to make my lungs big enough for her to curl up in. Nie martw się, I say. Na pewno się dobrze skończy, zobaczysz, I promise. Już zresztą wstaje słońce, inaczej co by to była za historia. Prędzej czy później zaczną żyć długo i szczęśliwie, zobaczysz. And will they really, she wants to know, will they actually? And I say, popatrz, już zmieniła się z powrotem. And now she's laughing, because I was right. And now she's forgotten and she's gone. She's left me to check if I can still fit through the door with these life raft lungs.
My niece is crying. I can't say that, Amerah, she says. It's easy. Ani hilwa. I am Googling how the Arabic language breaks syllables. It hurts my throat, she says. And I laugh. Slow it down, Baba. Say ani. I want you to... Ani.
Ani.
Hil. Wa. Now all together. Ani hilwa. I don't want to do this anymore. She picks up her iPad and starts playing the Arabic alphabet song. I laugh. Okay. How beautiful are you on a scale of 1 to 10? 10? She doesn't sound convinced. And I am convinced if she learns to say I am beautiful in Arabic, eventually she will believe it.
And my son is crying. He asks if he's going to die. He says, am I going to die? Am I going to die, Daddy? I don't want to die. Am I going to die? Am I going to die? And I don't want to lie. So I say, tak. Synku, ale jeszcze bardzo, bardzo długo. And he wants me to kiss death away like a scraped knee. So am I going to die? I don't want to die. He holds me as tight as he can and doesn't understand why it's not helping. Synku, I want to shout. Kiedy byłem mały, chodziłem na roraty co rano ze świeczką winiętą w papier. I w kościele świętego Michała dowodzili mi dobitnie, że historie takie jak moja zawsze kończą się szczęśliwie, a teraz nerwowo wertuję nasze życia, zaginam rogi na tych kartkach, które mogę skleić w coś, co pokaże mi, jak ci odpowiedzieć.
My brother is crying. Malak, alhamdulillah, he is holding the corpse of his son. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I have only ever seen Arab men cry at funerals. He places Ibrahim down, starts rolling a cigarette and mumbles, Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal, Rabbi yigib lana ma nihtaj, ya Rabb arham ibni, khali yishfa' li, yishuf Abd al-Rabb wa Muhammad yishuf giddati. At least he'll be with his cousins and grandma. Alhamdulillah, cigarette in mouth.
My daughter is crying. I spoke without looking up. She was closer than I thought, and my slammed door voice sent her running straight to me. She hugs my leg, trembling. Imagine, it's like embracing a spider or asking a wolf to hide you from itself. So I stroke her hair and think of Warsaw and how it's taken to dressing in black and red. From afar, I watch my city clench its streets and wave the crowded fist at people it doesn't know. I blink quickly. It's not my turn. You console children by distracting them. Opowiedz mi bajkę, I say. I don't know any. Wymyśl coś. She smiles. She says, dawno, dawno temu byłam ja.
My sister is crying. She's holding her sixth child whilst praying to God that he lets her keep this one. That's not how it works, Nadal. I laugh. Sakta bas, khalili hali. She has started to pray more recently. Every time a doctor sighs, I hear her say, Ya Rab, khalili ibni.
Thank you.
Stand here. Yeah. Thank you very much, both. I'm conscious we've gone slightly over, but hopefully you won't mind if we go to 1:45, so we've got time for some comments, questions, and then we can have 45 minutes for lunch if that's okay. Great. So thank you both of you, first of all. I mean, just very quickly, for those of us who don't know, I mean, there is a website, but what is the Beatfreeks Collective?
So the Beatfreeks Collective is three companies, and their overarching big vision is to fuel conversations and concepts that dare people to challenge the way of the world. And we do that through 3 different ways. Free Radical, which is an art activist collective that develops young people's skills, networks and confidence through programs and just really cool things. And Young Giant, which is a youth engagement agency, and that works with young people and large big brands to connect and start dialogue together. And then Doink, which is a do and think stuck together, is our data comms and communication. So we make extraordinary, really cool games to collect and communicate data to people.
Thank you very much. I got lots of questions, but we'll be working together more on our strands. So I'll open the floor. Responses, comments, queries, questions? Just one clutch.
I think you've ripped my heart and you put it together. It was really amazing. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
No,
very
thank
much
you.
for that.
Any more comments in that vein?
Or the fact that he's taking some of our creative jobs. That, you know,
Yeah.
He did start it, so feel free to carry on the sparring. Question over there?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You said at the beginning that you found the idea of performing in Arabic intimidating, both because it's challenging from neural, the neural performance, and because you didn't know how the Arabic people in the room would respond. What do you think then? Are you happy with what you're doing? For me, it sounds great, but from the perspective, and also have you had good feedback from the Arabic community?
Yeah, I think it's at the start. It's more there's different variations. There's, do I want to stand on stage and perform an Arabic piece in this society, and then somebody come up to me later and be like, "You're one of those terrorists." But the other things that kind of I consider when I'm writing is that the people that speak Arabic in Yemen, it's like the slang of the whole Middle East. So naturally, it's a different dialect to somebody who would speak. If you learn Arabic, you learn the Fusha, which is the very traditional writing of Arabic, and all the words are very different. So it's accepting that kind of that it is different. Like my accent would be different to somebody in English to somebody from Scotland. So it was accepting that and coming to terms with that. But the Arabic community are happy with it because you don't hear Arabic being performed in spoken word in kind of the UK. So they're excited and happy, and also the topics that I touch on are around those themes of culture and identity and being Yemeni. So yeah, but if you try and say this word, and I won't tell you what it means, but it is just one word in Arabic, and this is one of the hardest, but it's daqiqa. Daqiqa. Yeah, it just means minute. It's really, but that's the complexities that you come around, like, because you speak Arabic from the back of your throat. So when I switch, I remember when I first did a set in Arabic and English, I had to stop halfway through an English poem to go, my tongue is still in Arabic mode. So you've just got to, I don't know if you...
I won't answer the question about Arabic.
No, but about switching.
You ripped my heart out too, thank you. It's great stuff. I just wanted to ask a question which might seem like kind of a weird one, but although I work in Cambridge, I live in North Cornwall, which is one of the parts of the country that has the lowest non-British communities, and yet voted fiercely, like so many rural communities did. And I'm very interested in the difference between working in rural and urban communities. I realise your focus is primarily on the emerging urban and inside the urban world, and I think it would be really interesting to think a little bit about what it would be like to take some of the techniques, some of the thoughts, some of the processes, some of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I think you're right on both points. So at least me, and I think Amerah, as far as I know you as well, we definitely work more in urban areas than rural areas. But there are structures that you could tap into, that are rural touring networks, so there are systems in place that could be used to bring more, multilingual art to those communities. But it's in all honesty, as much as I've lived here for 11 years now, and I spend a considerable part of my time touring and performing all around the country, and very rarely do I get to go somewhere that's not, a city or larger towns.
You said you was in the whole city of culture.
That's right.
And did any people come from the rural areas as part of your kind of pop-up boxes, or were they largely from the?
No, they were definitely from the urban community. Yeah.
Did I see a hand? Yes, I did.
I think I'm going to jump with you actually.
Was there someone else? No, I don't think it was just you. Was there somebody else? No.
Thank you so much for the performances. I want to ask you, what's been the reaction of young people hearing your materials, particularly those who might also have poetry in English and Arabic in English? What's been your reaction from there?
Yeah, I think spoken word is a big thing within kind of the young community. So you come up and you kind of like bear, like it feels like you're bearing your soul, and then everybody like really supportive, and then you leave. But I hope, I haven't asked, but I hope that it allows anybody who speaks another language to embrace it within their work, which is exactly what people like Bohdan and Spaz did for me as an artist. So I kind of, when I perform, even if they don't necessarily understand Arabic, but say they speak Somali, then they're happier to speak Somali and English in a poem. So. With Polish people, it's slightly more complex because at least in my experience, and I can't compare it to other immigrant groups, but the Polish community is quite hermetic still, especially when it comes to the arts. So you simply don't see many young Polish people at poetry events, and the whole project I reference is one of the very first ones I've been asked to work on that actually worked. Because they listen to me and let me go to where the community is. 90% of the time is like, we have a huge art center, we'll ask them to come and do some workshops, and they never come. So this project worked because we were where they were, and they saw someone speaking their language who was about to be. It helped actually that the culminating point was part of the program for Contain Strong Language, which is a BBC festival, and those magic 3 letters completely legitimized me. And like, oh yeah, no, you BBC, we've all heard of BBC. It's a real thing. All right, you're not just a weird man in a box. You're also a weird man in a box. But having that weight behind it and still. Essentially, being there in their space and listening rather than just speaking at them helped a lot. So we found a small group of young people who hopefully will keep on working on the spoken word.
And both those companies, and Identities has really nurtured a culture of kind of poetry nights, which starts off with a kind of early to mid-teens, and that happens the first Thursday of every month.
Yeah, it is our 5th birthday on the 8th of February.
Thursday?
On Thursday, and we're taking over the town hall in Birmingham.
Yeah, which is 800 capacity, so you should all come because we're quite scared.
Three of us at least.
There you go.
Great.
There are 2 panels, so we'll take 1, 2 is the kind of final.
Just a very simple question. Do you do some performances in schools?
Yeah. We work in schools quite a lot.
My links exactly directly to that, and to what Jean-Marc was saying before, of misunderstandings of bilingual, multilingual language practices, and anyone who's grown up in 2 languages knows that code switching, translanguaging, whatever you want to call it, is entirely normal, powerful, and it can also be a support when you don't know the word in one language. There are, nobody even questions it, but for somebody in a monolingual environment or in a dominant monolingual environment, either people think, wow, that's amazing, or people think it's weird or whatever. But it'd be really interesting to kind of lobby for an understanding or a greater understanding of what you're doing is, number 1, totally normal, number 2, totally powerful, but almost like explicitly saying, this is what happens. And because I find that so many people that I work with have so little thinking about that. And either surprise or, regarding it as diminished capacity. And it would be, and I sometimes think rather than just doing it, it's really powerful to also say, this is to kind of a bit of education on the side as well, to say this is normal, this is what we do, and to not just leave it as unspoken or demonstrated. And the demonstration is incredibly powerful, and I too was extremely moved. But I'm just conscious of those many kind of perceptions that are still so prevalent in the way people particularly teach children and their bilingualism in school.
I think that's a great point. The problem, obviously, and this is me betraying my translation background, it all depends on the context. So we've gone massively over time here, and depending on the gig, there may be no time to over-explain or even explain at all, and just modeling has to do. I do try to make sure that any set I do, wherever I'm performing, it features at least a little bit of Polish, and hopefully, and that's proved true in the past, people then come up and ask questions. But in other situations where I have more time, I can talk about how big an advantage it is, how I've discovered that, you know, if I'm struggling with the draft and switching languages can allow a way into a poem, then you can circle back into it. Well, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You're specialists in the field. But yeah, I get to talk about that. And specifically in schools, sometimes there are programs. There was a program that Arvin ran or co-ran called Mother Tongue, which was specifically, explicitly for that, to address multilingual children or non-native language speakers in the English context, and show them that their other language is an advantage rather than something they have to struggle with.
Okay. Finally now, no more than 10 seconds each, okay? You were invited here and gave you a brief under the Creative Multilingualism, which I thought you addressed really fantastically, so thank you very much for that. But very quickly, what do the words creative and multilingualism mean to you as artists spoken word? No more than 10 seconds. Quickly.
You got 20 seconds. Creative multilingualism describes my artistic practice. It's what I do.
Thank you.
For me, it's not a question of what language do you think in, but what do the words represent when you put them on paper, and if they can't be translated into one language, then you have the advantage of doing another.
It's over 10 seconds. I could see you going.
Let's carry this on into lunch, and thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.